This is the new Cupra Terramar, a stylish but still sensible SUV from the Spanish brand. I'm here in Spain to drive it and to give you a bit of an indication on what it's like before it arrives in Australia in 2025. I like the look of it, I think you will too, and the interior has plenty of great features as well. So if you haven't already, please ring the bell, then you'll be notified when I do my review of this car in Australia as well. But hey, let's get to it, there's a lot to cover. Cupra Australia hasn't yet confirmed pricing and specifications for the Terramar for our market, but they have indicated at this early drive in Spain that a $55,000 price tag is probably the target for the entry-level version, and I'm expecting that one to be the 1.5 ETSI mild hybrid with front-wheel drive, and then you'll probably expect the plug-in hybrid and the 195 TSI models to be priced around the same point, just above 60 grand is what I'm expecting. Yes, that means that there will be some crossover with the Formentor, the other SUV that this sort of car plays against in the Cupra range. But I think that you're going to get plenty of specifications as standard. The brand is all about offering lots of gear for your money. You can expect these LED daytime running lights with LED headlights, big wheels. There's 20s on this 195 TSI model, so 20s, 21s might be a possibility as well. A beautiful interior. A sunroof could be optional or standard, we don't know yet, but you're going to get some really nice seats and really nice trim on the inside as well. So don't expect that you're going to get not very much for your money. I think there's going to be plenty on offer in this model range, starting at around 55 grand. So what alternatives could you consider? As I said, this is the more sensible Cupra SUV. If you are looking for something that's still got plenty of style, but maybe isn't quite as practical as this, then maybe check out the Cupra Formentor. I really like that car. It's in for an update as well with a new look, and yes, with plug-in hybrid technology, punchy turbo petrol engines, and a bit more of a performance bent compared to this car. And I think that if you are after a dynamic drive experience, that one could be the best alternative to this. Otherwise, you might want to consider the new generation Volkswagen Tiguan as well. It's got some beautiful interior finishes, some great powertrain options, lots of practicality, and I really like the way it drives. I'm not so sure about the look personally though. And hey, if you're still considering something like this, but you are after a plug-in hybrid in particular, I think you might also want to go and check out the BYD Sea Lion 6. There are a couple of options available. It's much more affordable, and I know that it isn't necessarily the same sort of style-focused car that this is, but it does offer lots of features for the cash. Tell me if you'd pick any of those or a different alternative in the comments section below. This is about the same size as most other mid-size SUVs. It's about 4.5 meters in length, so it's not too big, and it actually doesn't look too big. It's got that sort of lower roofline aspect that you might expect of a Cupra, and plenty of styling details that the brand has made its trademark. Those triangulated headlights, the big grille finish, and also nice solid looking panels around the body. Big wheels, this one's on 20s with the bronze finish as well. And yes, obviously, or bronze or copper you might want to call it, that is one of the highlights of this brand and its, I guess, design finishes that it uses. And I just like the look of it. I just think it looks really good, but also quite similar to some of the other Cupras, right? So even though the brand might be trying to make things look a little bit different, it does look, well, familiar, let's say. The back end, very tidy, nice big light bar with the illuminated Cupra badge. And if you're wondering where the Terramar badge is, it's actually inlaid in the taillight. See there? That's kind of neat, isn't it? All right, let's check out the boot and see how practical it is. Yeah, plenty of space. Look at that. That is a sizable boot space for a car of this size, and it has plenty of practicality elements as well. You've got shopping bag hooks, you've got lights on both sides of the boot, which I like. Another shopping bag hook there. Some little storage sections on the side and a tire repair kit in this particular car, but there is space for a space saver spare, so hopefully we get one in Australia. And also you can lower this boot floor down to give you even more boot space. And there's another trick I want to show you, just one sec. There's extra space in front there. If you slide those seats forward, that means you get a bit more space to play with. I'll put this boot floor back up so you can see maybe a little bit more indicatively. It's just a shame that there isn't something that sort of bridges that gap between the seats. But hey, if you've got something maybe oddly shaped, a little bit long, maybe a little bit awkward to fit in the boot, it might fit behind those seats. But let me just show you the penalty you pay if you do have those seats all the way forward. Not ideal. All right, here's your point of view perspective of this left-hand drive version of the Cupra Terramar. And just like the other Cupra models, I like the interior finishing here. I like this design. I think it has some great and interesting elements to the finishes and the textures in here. So things that I really like is this dashboard design, which almost looks like stone on the top there. Of course, it isn't stone, it's a plasticky finish, but it is still very nice. And also this horizontal spine element that runs across the body of the car really does give it a whole new feel compared to some of the other vehicles in its segment. There's also this boomerang finish down here, which looks fantastic, and it sort of divides the cabin between the passenger zone and the driver's area. And look, I really like the way that this car sets itself up for the driver, essentially. Like, you've got great adjustability. All the controls are pretty logical in terms of what's on the steering wheel in particular. So for instance, you've got this digital instrument display. You can adjust things like your lane keeping assistance and your speed warning, and also your travel assist using the controls on the steering wheel. So you use those controls to dial that off or on. And I think that that's fantastic because it means you don't necessarily have to go through the screen to do it, but you can if you want to, and you can set favorites on the screen as well. So that's kind of neat. And the screen itself, I mean, it does take a little bit of learning because there's lots and lots of menus here. It's a rich screen with lots of availability of options and things that you can change. Like, for example, the lighting has multiple ambient light settings on the inside of this car. And the car settings, yes, there are plenty of ways to adjust things there as well. You can have a look into some of the status elements for the car as well. And yes, it's just a deep screen because there's a lot of different content available here. Drive modes can be dialed up through there, or you can dial them up using this Cupra button on the steering wheel as well, and that'll show up just on the screen there when you change it. So it'll show up on that screen to show you when you're changing, and the little icon shows up on the driver info screen at the top there, as you can see. So all of that just comes pretty easily, I reckon, and does bring this car in line with the other Cupra models in the range. And it still has that same old complaint that I have, that you don't get dials down below the screen, but you do get a home bar for your climate control, and you can slide these little sliders to adjust the temperature if you want to. And yes, also the climber button there, so you need to adjust your fan on the screen. So, I mean, for me, I'm a bit of a fiddler. I like to have the settings how I want them. I wish there was a dial down below that you could adjust the fan speed, or even a button, but there isn't. There is a volume slider though, and those are illuminated for nighttime driving as well. So also you've got a wireless phone charger down here, a couple of USB-C ports, cup holders there, a little storage tray there where you might want to put your key, and in here there's a covered center console bin with a key and Marshall from Paw Patrol. And also these seats are very comfortable, they're very nicely sculpted, and this material finish is lovely as well. You've got bottle holders in the doors, of course, and a reasonably sized glove box as well. And so I think that the practicality elements and the design elements are all covered in this car. And also, yes, you do get a big glass roof. Well, this car has a big glass roof. We'll have to wait and see on what grades it comes standard. But let's jump in the back seat and see if it's comfortable too. All right, so the back seat experience. This seat is set for my driving position at 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall. Just look at that, ample space there, plenty of room for my feet to wiggle, and also plenty of leg room as well. So the other thing is this seat can slide forward, which does allow you more boot space if you want. It's kind of like some other cars in the Volkswagen Group range for that aspect. And also when I'm showing you how much headroom I've got, you can see for yourself, plenty, and you can recline or incline the seat back if you wish as well. So it is fairly practical when it comes to the seating stuff, and there's other practicality elements that you will appreciate. There's climate control in the back, directional air vents, you've got decent sized bottle holders in the back doors, ISO fixed points and 3 top tethers, and also a flip down armrest. No ski port in this one, which is a bit disappointing though. And another thing that maybe isn't as high-end premium as you might be hoping is these scratchy plastics on the tops of the doors, but at least the elbow pads are soft and you get this ambient light section in the back door as well. So your kiddos will love it. They might not love that they don't get map pockets though, but you might love that they get plasticky things to kick to their content on the backs of these beautiful seats. I think it's a very practical car. I think it definitely nails the brief when it comes to offering style and substance in an SUV like this. So, as I said, there's probably going to be 3 powertrains on offer in the Terramar lineup. There might be more, we don't know yet, but I'll tell you what I know so far. So this one here is the 2-litre with 195 kilowatts. It's the same engine that they use in the new Tiguan R-Line models for Australia and in some other applications across the Volkswagen group. And yes, 195 kilowatts is a lot of power for a car like this, and it's a pretty punchy engine with a dual clutch automatic transmission and all-wheel drive. Now there's also going to be a 200 kilowatt plug-in hybrid model as well. So it's got a turbocharged petrol engine, an electric motor, a battery pack, pretty big battery pack in fact. You'll see the range for that one on your screen now. And it's also going to be front wheel drive only. So that might rule it out for some people, but hey, there's also probably going to be that mild hybrid model which will save you money because it'll be the most affordable version in the range. But hey, like I said, make sure you've hit subscribe and rung the bell, and I'll bring you more details on what is exactly going to be offered for our market when I drive this car in Australia in 2025. So, what's the Terramar like to drive? It has that Cupra feel to it, which, if you haven't driven a Cupra, you might not know that they do tailor their cars to be different to the donor products. So like Volkswagens and Audis that share a lot of the hardware that this car has, the tune that's been applied to this car is different. So as a result of that, you get a different feel to the steering. You get different ride comfort and compliance levels as well, but also a bit of a different character overall when it comes to how it drives. Now, I have to say though, I've driven a few different Cupras over the last couple of days, and this one feels the most like a Volkswagen or an Audi in terms of the overall impression I'm getting from the drive. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. It certainly probably suits the buyer of this car a bit better, because I suspect that if you're thinking about a Terramar, then you might have thought that the Formentor isn't quite for you, for instance. So the Formentor just has a more, I guess, engaging drive experience, where this is slightly more sedate, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm telling you, this could be the sweet spot for some people that maybe want a sporty looking SUV, but don't necessarily want it to be really, really sporty or unrelenting to drive with every day. And in that regard, this car, I think, looks like it's gonna nail the brief for this brand. Now, I have driven this car a little bit, not as extensively as some of the other Cupras that have been on this drive as well, but my first impressions, as I said, are that it does feel a bit more sedate, but you can adjust things, obviously. If I put it into the performance mode, yes, it does make things, well, more performance-y. Yeah, it's fast, there's no doubt about that. 195 kilowatts is plenty for a car of this size, and it sounds good too, doesn't it? That's obviously an artificial noise that's being piped into the cabin, but it is a nice noise. And this is fast, like there's plenty of performance here. I don't know that you'll need any more than this if you're a bit of an assertive driver. And yes, in that drive mode, you do also get a bit more weight to the steering, a bit more directness on center, and the ride firms up as well because it's got adaptive suspension in the car that I'm testing. Not sure whether that'll be standard across all the versions available, but you can expect it in high spec models at least. This is fun, man. This is a really fun car to drive for a midsize SUV. And if you've always thought, well, I'm not so sure that any of the other ones will tick the box for me in terms of the fun factor, this one might. And I'll just also add that this car, because it's a conventional internal combustion engine vehicle, it does have better brake pedal feel than the plug-in hybrid models that I've been driving. Now, I haven't driven the plug-in hybrid version of this, but yes, it just gives you a bit more sensation through the pedals and a bit more, I guess, faithfulness in the fact that it will pull up when you want it to, and those brakes do pull up pretty well. Now it's also got some electronic smarts to help you turn corners with a little bit more tightness. So it's got this cornering braking system, basically a torque vectoring system that will nibble at the inside wheel to help it feel like it's going to turn a little tighter to eliminate understeer essentially. So it does that pretty well. It's pretty convincing to drive, and on the whole, I'm actually really convinced by this car. Now, I mentioned earlier that you do have a few ways to turn off the safety systems in this car, and I really appreciate that. But there's one other thing that's been added to this car that hasn't been in some of the other Cupras that have come before it. It's got an eyesight monitoring system that will basically tell you if it thinks you're distracted. And if you've watched any of my other reviews with that sort of technology, you'll know that I think that it gets it wrong a fair bit, in most other applications at least. And in this one, if you're just trying to find something on the driver info screen or trying to put in an address on the main screen, it will also tell you that you're too distracted. So that's not fantastic. And also it might lock out the controls for the main screen if it thinks you're being too distracted. So it's a bit of a nanny state one, that. Okay, during my time in the Terramar, it hasn't just been me driving, and it hasn't just been me in the car. So the figure that you see now might be maybe less indicative of what you might actually see in real world situations. There's been some enthusiastic driving by a mix of different people. So yes, the number that I saw displayed, 12.6 litres per 100 Ks, could be a little higher than what you might achieve in real world driving. But then again, hey, the mild hybrid version, if it comes, or the plug-in hybrid, might make a lot more sense for you if you are after something that has a bit more of a frugal mindset. But this one's got a bit more performance, so you can decide. I reckon the Cupra Terramar could be a fantastic option for people who are looking for a sporty, stylish, and still smart SUV with plenty of family practicality elements to it as well. Do you like it? Let me know in the comments section, and also tell me what you think it should cost. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.